السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما. Inshallah, we'll be starting, we'll continue on with the story of Maryam alayhi salam. During this class, we've been discussing the thematic tafsir. Okay, we've been exploring the life of Maryam alayhi salam from a thematic standpoint. What that means is that we've been discussing the life of Maryam alayhi salam through the different verses in the Quran, and that it's been an exciting journey so far. And I say that because actually we've gotten through most of the story of Maryam, and now we're going to loop around and really talk about the different ayat that we went through before. Because first we gave a quick overview of the different verses, first we gave a quick overview of the entire life of Maryam alayhi salam. And in the last class, we discussed the story of Maryam alayhi salam and her situation with Isa alayhi salam. And now we're going to continue off where we're going to actually go through these verses and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying and understand what does that mean to us, inshallah. And so what's interesting, what's really cool is that these verses should be, for those of you who have been following along, these verses should be very familiar to you. So you're able to kind of keep up and you're able to hear them and have and recognize that, okay, this is something that we talked about previously. The class this is not meant to be repetitive. We're just going to go into more details in certain places. And what's very interesting here is that we're going to start from the beginning of the life of Maryam alayhi salam, and we'll start from the time when her mother was pregnant with her. And so we talked about this. We talked about how Maryam alayhi salam, her mother, okay, the wife of Imran, her mother made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that dua that she made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was that she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give her a child, and she wanted she was pregnant already, and she told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that she wanted to dedicate the child that was in her womb to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that dedication that she wanted to do was that this child would be dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning a devout worshiper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taking care of the masjid, just really being all for the sake of God. And what that means is that, you send this child off to study. That's kind of what it looks like now, where parents will send their kids off at a very young age to study or dedicate their child to deen, they dedicate their child to Islam to become pioneers in the religion and to teach people about the religion and so on and so forth. So Maryam alayhi salam's mother basically dedicated her child to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when she gives birth to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا قالت, when she gives birth to Maryam alayhi salam, فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا, when she gives birth to her, قالت, she says, رَبِّ إِنِّي وَضَعْتُهَا أُنْثَى. She says, oh my Lord, I gave birth to a girl. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمْ بِمَا وَضَعَتْ وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah knows best about that which you gave birth to, and know that men and women are not the same. And we've talked about this portion of the ayah in great detail when we talked about it before. But a quick recap is that Maryam alayhi salam's mother gives birth to her. She's expecting to have given birth to a male because she wanted to dedicate her child to the religion, and that is what was seen. That in that time, what was seen mainly were that rabbis and things of that nature were all males. And so when she gives birth to a daughter, she's very much so confused because she knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would accept this child, but she just thought that it was going to come out as a boy. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells her that, listen, Allah knows best what you gave birth to, that God is not confused. God knows best what you gave birth to. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. And men and women are not the same. That yes, there are some differences in regards to men and women. But when it comes to in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to devotion, when it comes to worship, when it comes to getting to Jannah, we know that the only thing that differentiates people is atqakum. Like the only thing that differentiates people is their level of God consciousness and their level of awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your gender doesn't mean that you're less likely to go to Jannah. Your gender doesn't mean that you're less likely to get the reward or the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not the case. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yeah, men and women are not the same. But that does not mean that that she's not accepted. It does not mean that she cannot be devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Maryam alayhi salam's mother continues, and she says, وَإِنِّي سَمَّيْتُهَا Maryam, that indeed I name her Maryam. And we talked about this name Maryam and how it means the servant of God, the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this last part, this is the part we're going to spend some time on, because in the previous classes, we didn't spend any time on it, so we'll spend a little bit of time here, where she says, وَإِنِّي أُعِيدُهَا بِكَ وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. And she says that I commend her and her offspring to your protection from the rejected shaitan. And what's interesting here is that there is a narration from the Prophet ﷺ, and this narration is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, when we talk about narrations, and we talk about who narrated it, the narrators are people who sat with the Prophet ﷺ, and they narrated it, and then they narrated to other people, and those other people narrated it to other people, and from there it reached us. And so the way that we got this particular narration is through Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was a devout student of knowledge, and his name's actually not Hurayra, Abi Hurayra. He just loved cats, so they started naming him Abu Hurayra. And he narrates this narration as he's narrated many narrations. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ما من مولود يولد إلا والشيطان يمسه حين يولد, that no child was born except that shaitan, every single child that's been born, Shaitan came to them at the time of birth and tried to influence them, tried to intimidate, tried to poke at them, tried to, just really bother them. And then the narration continues. It says, it says, فَيَسْتَحِلُّ صَارِخًا مِنْ مَسِّ الشَّيْطَانِ إِيَّاهُ إِلَّا مَرْيَمَ وَابْنَهَا, that the child begins to cry, that the child begins to wail. The baby is crying at birth, and is crying because of this intimidation, is crying because of this influence that shaitan is trying to have over them. And so here, at the end of this particular narration says that the only people that had been saved from this type of intimidation or this type of influence that shaitan kept coming and poking at kids, at babies. Okay, shaitan would start while you're a baby, shaitan starts trying to influence you, starts trying to poke holes, starts trying to, get you to do bad things. And so here it says that the people that were saved from that was Maryam alayhi salam and her child. What's very interesting is that this hadith is narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. And so what's very interesting is that Ibn Hajar rahimullah, he has he wrote a explanation, or what you would call an explanation of the Bukhari narrations, the narrations that Imam Bukhari has brought. And Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he says that some people, they bring up, and he quotes Imam Razi, and Imam Razi says that the question that is posed is that isn't the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, isn't he the best of creation? Isn't he the Afdal al-Anbiya? Isn't he the best of prophets? Then if that's the case, why wasn't he protected? Why wasn't the Prophet ﷺ given this protection? Why didn't it say, إِيَّاهُ إِلَّا مَرْيَمَ وَابْنَهَا وَمُحَمَّدٍ sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Well, the answer that Imam Razi brings, and Imam Razi is a brilliant scholar of tafsir. And what Imam Razi does many times in his tafsir is that he will pose a question just to answer his own question, and it's not for the sake of him, but it's for the sake of the reader. And so what Imam Razi says, and he answers, is that he says that mentioning a virtue for someone else does not remove the virtue of the other person. That just because you compliment one person doesn't mean that you remove the virtue of another person. So if I said, hey, you have a very nice BMW. It doesn't mean that all the other BMWs are ugly. It just means I'm complimenting that person. And so here, what it's saying is that Maryam alayhi salam and is pointing and highlighting the fact that the dua of Maryam alayhi salam's mother was answered. And her dua was that she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I put my child and her offspring. This is like even forcing, like way forcing her future. I put my child and her offspring in your care, and I ask you that you protect them from shaitan. That is what Maryam alayhi salam's mother did, and the Prophet confirms with us through this hadith that they were protected. Maryam alayhi salam, this shows us the importance of dua. Okay, it shows us the importance of making dua. That those people, those of us who have kids, or those of us who are expecting children, and so on and so forth, it's very important to make sure you make dua for your kids. It's very important that you make dua for your future children. That's why there is a dua that there's the dua that there's the dua where you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make your spouse and your offspring the coolness of your eyes in Surah Al-Furqan, that you make your spouse, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes your spouse and your offspring the coolness to your eyes, and that is in Surah Al-Furqan. So it's so important to make these types of du'as, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects them from shaitan, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects even yourself. That is why our morning and evening du'as go a long way. That when we make du'a to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us in the morning, when we make our morning du'as, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best in that morning, okay? To give us the best that the day has to offer. And then when the evening comes, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best in what the evening has to offer, to protect us from the evils of the evening, to protect us from the evils of shaitan. That it's so important for us to set ourselves up to be able to accomplish a lot. And accomplish a lot means that we stay away from shaitan, that we get away from shaitan, that every single time shaitan has tried to tempt us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves us. And so we make dua for that. The next part of the class for today is that Maryam alayhi salam was chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَفَاكِ وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاسْتَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. That when the angels came to Maryam alayhi salam, they said to her, Ya Maryam, O Mary, inna Allah hashtafaki. Indeed, God has chosen you. Like God has elevated you. God has chosen you. وَطَهَّرَكِ, and He has purified you. وَاسْتَفَاكِ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ, and He has chosen you above all women. And what we see here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Maryam 2 times. The first time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Maryam, or elevated her, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose her and elevated her as a servant in His service. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose and elevated Maryam alayhi salam as a servant in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we get that from well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنًا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted her, that her Lord graciously accepted her, that her Lord accepted her with a beautiful acceptance. وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا, and He made her grow in goodness. Okay, He made her grow in goodness. وَكَفَّلَهَا زَكَرِيَّا, and not only did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stop there in His choosing of Maryam, He chose her, He preferred her, He chose her, and He elevated her so much so that He put her into the care of Zakaria, a prophet. Okay, وَكَفَّلَهَا زَكَرِيَّا, and then we see the fruits we see the fruits of Maryam. We see it early on in her life. We see how this choosing of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did of her, we see it very early in her life, how it had an effect on her and her iman, and how it had an effect on her and her ability to do dua, and how it had an effect on her and her ability to inspire others. كُلَّمَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهَا زَكَرِيَّا الْمِحْرَابَ, that whenever Zakaria would come into her mihrab, the area where she would, seclude herself for worship, وَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا رِزْقًا, that He will find there with her different provisions, different fruits that were out of season. قَالَ يَا مَرْيَمُ أَنَّ لَكِ هَذَا, then Zakaria will ask her, he will say, Oh Maryam, what is this? Like, how'd you get these fruits? How did you get these things when they're not even in season right now? And Maryam alayhi salam will say, قالت هو من عند الله, that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب, that God will give whoever He wants. He provides for whoever He wants limitlessly. He will give to whoever He wants limitlessly. Like you cannot limit God. You cannot limit God. You cannot limit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we see this choosing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does of Maryam alayhi salam, this elevation that this way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated Maryam alayhi salam really shows, it really shows her virtue. You know, it really shows how great she was. And the second way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually chose Maryam alayhi salam is that He says it in the next part of the ayah. He says, وَاسْتَفَاكِ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ, and we chose you over all of the women of the world. So the Prophet there's a narration, there's many narrations about this, but there's one narration, I'll mention a couple. One of them is right here on the screen for those of you who are on Facebook and I think YouTube. So the Prophet says, "Afdalun nisa al Jannah," that the most virtuous, the best of women who are amongst the people of Jannah are Khadija bint Khuwaylid, that Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, wa Fatima bint Muhammad, and Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, wa Maryam bint Imran, and Maryam alayhi salam, the daughter of Imran, wa Asiya bint Muzahim imra'atu Fir'aun, and Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun. And Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun. In another narration, the Prophet says, he says, "Kamala minal rijali kathir," that there were many men that came and went, and they had this level of they were role models. Okay, there were many men who came and left, and they were role models. وَلَمْ يَكْمُلْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا Maryam bintu Imran. That if you're when you think about the role models for women, when you think about not for women but the woman role models, when you think about the woman role models, that those women were Maryam bintu Imran, Maryam the daughter of Imran, wa Asiya imra'atu Fir'aun, and Asiya the wife of Fir'aun, wa fadlu Aisha ala nisa ka fadli tarid ala sa'ir al-ta'am, and the virtue of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is like Tharid is like a Arab dish. It was a dish at the time. It's like preferring this dish, because this is a really good dish, over all the foods. Okay, so what the Prophet says here is that there are many male role models that have come and gone, but the women role models that we have and we take from are people like Maryam alayha salam, Maryam bint Imran alayha salam, and you have Asiya and you have Khadija. And so there's so many other, and you have Aisha. There's so many other narrations that talk about the virtue and the elevation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Maryam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated her in terms of her devotion, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated her above the woman of the world. And what does this teach us? It teaches that we take Maryam alayhi salam as a role model. It teaches us that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking the time to highlight Maryam alayhi salam in this way, it is so important for us to take from her life story. It's so important for us to really analyze these verses and like go in depth and really think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying about her, and think about the different parts of her life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Mal Masih ibn Maryam illa Rasul. Okay, He says that the Messiah, the son of Maryam, illa Rasul, is only a prophet. He's only a messenger. Okay, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about Isa alayhi salam, and this is in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 75. Surah Al-Ma'idah, surah number 5, ayah number 75. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Mal Masih ibn Maryam illa Rasul. That Maryam, Isa, the son of Maryam, is only a messenger. Only a messenger. قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. That many prophets have come before, many messengers have come before him. Many messengers have passed before him. وَأُمُّهُ صِدِّيقَةٌ. And his mother was a supporter of truth, that his mother was truthful. His mother she was a pillar of truth. That is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains Maryam alayhi salam, that she was a pillar of truth. In Surah Al-Tahrim, In Surah Tahrim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us how Maryam alayhi salam serves as an example not only for women, because in Surah Al Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْتَفَاكِ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ, and we have chosen you, or we have elevated you amongst above all women of the world. But Maryam alayhi salam doesn't only serve as an example for women, she serves as an example for all of us as believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to strike an example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to really drive a point, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to look up to something or really pay attention to something, He says, ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا, that He has struck an example. He has provided an example. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided an example لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, for those who believe. إِمْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ, the wife of Fir'aun. Like, look at the wife of Fir'aun. Look at her life story. Look at what happened. إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ ابْنِ لِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. When she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when she said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh my Lord, build for me a home in Jannah, next to you. Build for me a home next to you in Jannah. وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ, and save me from Fir'aun, وَعَمَلِهِ, and his actions. وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, and save me from a group of people who are wrongdoers, a wrongdoing nation, a group of people who are wrongdoers." And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Wa Maryam ibnata Imran." What we're learning here is that this wow is a wow atif, and is a wow of connection. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that for the believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided an example, and He says that the believers need to pay attention. And He said the first example that He says is what? Maryam, Asiya alayhi salam, the wife of Fir'aun. And then He says in the second example, Maryam ibnata Imran, the Maryam, the daughter of Imran, allati ahsanat farjaha. She's the one who we guarded her chastity. فَنَفَخْنَا فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِنَا, and we blew into her through our angel like a child, that she was given a child. وَصَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا, and she believed. وَصَدَّقَتْ, she was convinced, she had conviction. She believed بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا, in the words of her Lord. She believed in the words of her Lord. وَكُتُبِهِ وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ, and she believed in the scriptures of her Lord. She believed in the scriptures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she was amongst those مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ, those who were devoutly obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who were devoutly obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we learn here is three things for today. The three things that we learned from Maryam alayhi salam today is that we learned, number one, du'as go a long way. Do not shortchange your du'as. Do not, think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not listening to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listening to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listening to you, and it's so important to make du'a. That Maryam alayhi salam's mother made immense du'a for her, and those du'as all came true. So now we're talking about it hundreds and thousands of years later, that Maryam alayhi salam's mother made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for her to be devoted, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ, and she was devoutly obedient. She was devoutly obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Maryam alayhi salam's mother made dua that, she is protected from shaitan, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet confirms for us that Maryam alayhi salam was protected from shaitan. And so we see here that du'as go a long way. Maryam alayhi salam, even in her lifetime, makes du'a to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for fruits, for food, for provisions, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just gives it to her, even though it seems like it was impossible to have it at that time. So du'as go a long way, and do not underestimate the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing that we learn here is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights a person, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a person in the Quran, it is so important that we pay close attention and see what we can learn from that situation, and see what we can learn from that person. And the third thing is that we have to realize that Maryam alayhi salam is a role model for all of us, and the way that in her demeanor, in how she was, in her conviction, everything that she had about her, she was a role model for us all. And one of the things that we learn learn from her is how to be a role model. The Maryam alayhi salam didn't talk about, oh, this is how you do this. Oh, look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at what I'm doing. She just did. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ, that she was amongst the people who were devoutly obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I pray that we all are able to benefit from everything that we learned here today. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses every single one of us, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all the best in this life and the next. I pray that those of us who are suffering or who are going through hardship, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease that hardship, ease that pain, and those of us who are in good health and those of us who life is great, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to keep you in good health and keep you content. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the suffering of those who are struggling around the world and those who are suffering from different types of injustices, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them justice. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.